present here. I'm Olivia Valiant from the Chamber Secretariat, and it's our privilege to welcome you all to Cochin Chamber's 169 Chamber Day. It's more than just a celebration. It's a reflection of our shared commitment to progress, collaboration, and innovation, and one of the Chamber's enduring role in shaping dialogue, policy, and economic advancement across generations. Spanning a journey from colonial era commerce to a fully globalized economy, the Cochin Chamber stands as a living institution that has evolved with nation while remaining in its mission to serve trade, industry, and society at large. Today, we are honored to have with us Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, Sir, the Hon'ble Minister for IT and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, as our esteemed guest of honor. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's our proud privilege to invite our esteemed dignitaries onto the dais. Firstly, may I now invite the President of Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Ms. Vinodini Sukumar, onto the dais. Next, I invite the Vice President of Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Shri Bibu Ponuran, onto the dais. Furthermore, may I now invite Shri Venugopal C. Govind, Sir, Senior Most Past President of Cochin Chamber for the period 1974-75 onto the dais. May I now invite Shri B. Kashi Vishwanathan, Sir, IRSME, Chairman, Cochin Port Authority, onto the dais. Finally, it's with great honor and privilege may I invite our guest of honor, Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, Sir, Honorable Minister for IT, Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, onto the dais. To begin with, I would like to invite our President Vinodini ma'am for the welcome address.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a moment of immense pride and privilege for all of us to gather here today to commemorate the 169th Chamber Day of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, an institution that has journeyed alongside India's economic evolution for nearly 17 decades. This historic milestone reflects not merely the longevity of an organization, but its enduring contribution to nation building and economic progress. Today, we are deeply honored to welcome our chief guest, Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, Honorable Minister of IT and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, a visionary leader whose work in technology, governance, and public policy exemplifies the convergence of innovation, inclusive growth. Sir, it's most appropriate that you will address us today on the Indian information technology, the digital era, and the way forward, at a time when India stands at a defining moment in its digital journey. The birth of the Chamber coincided with a pivotal period in our nation's history. It marked the First World War independence in 1857 and early aspirations of a people seeking self-rule. What began as a modest exchange among three British businessmen has since evolved into an institution defined not by its age, but by its purpose, relevance, and resilience. Established in an era when trade moved through ships, ledgers, and handshakes, the Cochin Chamber has never stood still. From its inception, it has been far more than a platform for trade and commerce. It has served as a catalyst for ideas, leadership, and national development. Over the years, the Chamber has been honored by the presence of several illustrious national leaders and eminent personalities. These include Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, former President of India, Shri M. Venkaiah Naidu, former Vice President of India, who have graced Chamber Day celebrations earlier. The Chamber has also had the privilege of hosting distinguished leaders and thought leaders such as Shri Nitin Gadkari, Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Ms. Tessie Thomas, Dr. D. Subbarao, Shri Nambi Narayanan, and Dr. Madhav Gadgil, among others, reaffirming the institution's enduring national relevance, intellectual stature, and influence across policy, science, governance, and public life. I extend a warm welcome to Shri B. Kashi Vishwanathan, IRSME, Chairman, Cochin Port Authority, Sir, the history of Cochin Chamber has intimately been connected with the growth of the Cochin port as a major harbour. It was J.H. Aspinwall, the then president of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce, who sponsored a proposal in 1870 for the construction of a deep water port. A warm welcome to all the officials of the Cochin Port Authority who have joined us today. I also extend a cordial welcome to Shri Venugopal C. Govind sir, past president, and to all our past presidents who are present here today, whose stewardship across decades has shaped the Chamber's institutional wisdom, integrity, and influence. Your presence today beautifully bridges our proud past with our promising future, sir. I extend a very warm welcome to Lieutenant Commander Sajit Kumar, Project Director, Kerala Startup Mission. This occasion also reflects the Chamber's forward-looking approach as we have instituted a dedicated startup vertical, underscoring our resolve to stay aligned with societal transformations and to nurture, inspire, and support the emerging startup ecosystem. We warmly welcome our platinum sponsor, Dhanlakshmi Bank, ably represented by Shri Verghese John, General Manager, Head IT and Digital Banking. I also wish to acknowledge and welcome our esteemed sponsors, Cochin Shipyard, GAC Shipping, PSN Automobiles, and DP World, whose unwavering support and confidence in the Chamber play a vital role in the successful conduct of programs of this magnitude. A sincere welcome to all our executive committee members and whose commitment and principled leadership continue to strengthen the Chamber's role as a trusted stakeholder in economic progress. To our members, I extend a heartfelt welcome to your engagement is the lifeblood that keeps the Chamber this meaningful dialogue between industry and administration and creates platforms for knowledge sharing, networking, and collaboration. Through its initiatives, policy interventions, business forums, and capacity building programs, the Chamber empowers enterprises to grow sustainably, adapt to change, and compete with confidence. Above all, it provides the strength of unity, transforming individual aspirations into collective progress. As we commemorate this historic 169th Chamber Day, we stand on the shoulders of giants who envisioned an institution that would endure the test of time. Our earliest presidents, Mr. J. Otteson, Mr. C.E. Myers, Mr. J.H. Aspinwall, were pioneers who laid a strong and principled foundation for organized commerce in this region. Their leadership and foresight transformed the Chamber into not merely an institution, but a legacy. That legacy has been carried forward by successive presidents over decades, each contributing to the Chamber's growth, relevance, and stature. Today, I stand before you as President of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry to uphold this rich heritage and on its way forward with collective purpose in a rapidly evolving economic landscape. We are proud to be associated with several leading chambers across the country, including the Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, the Calcutta Chamber of Commerce, the Indian Merchants Chamber, the Bombay Chamber, and the Madras Chamber, thereby further strengthening our national network and collaborative reach. At the same time, to drive trade and to strengthen our international partnerships, the Chamber takes pride in its collaborations with consulates and international chambers from countries across the world, including Indonesia, Australia, Thailand, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Germany, as well as the Latvian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we are working together to boost trade and strengthen our global connections. As we reflect on 169 years of service, let us remember that institutions endure not because of the years they have existed, but because of the values they uphold and the impact they create. May today's deliberations inspire us to embrace technology responsibly, foster innovation, and collectively shape a resilient, inclusive, and future-ready India. I once again welcome you all and wish you a meaningful and memorable 169th Chamber Day celebration. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. On this auspicious occasion, let's commence our event by lighting the lamp. It's a symbolic moment that signifies the dispelling of darkness, igniting of thoughts, and enlightenment. It's our pleasure to invite the guest of honor, Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, sir, to do the honors, along with the rest dignitaries on the stage, please.
शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं
Invite the immediate past president, SP Kamath, sir, to the stage. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, Hon'ble Minister for IT and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, distinguished committee members, President, Vice President, and past President and invitees. It's a great honor to introduce Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan. I was just sitting and thinking there. Now, normally when we think of politicians, we think that they're not, professional or some kind of perception we have got. But this resume, this profile is going to prove us wrong actually. So it's a great honor that I have an opportunity to introduce Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan. Friends, distinguished Indian statesman, technocrat and global financial expert, currently serving as the Honorable Minister for Information Technology and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, and formerly as Minister of Finance and Human Resources Management. During his tenure as Finance Minister, Sir was nominated as a member of the Goods and Services Tax Council, representing the Government of Tamil Nadu, and also served on two key groups of ministers under GST Council on System Reform Standing Committee and Casinos, Racecourses and Online Gaming, nominated by Honorable Union Minister for Finance. Dr. Thiagarajan is elected MLA from Madurai Central Constituency, having served both on the 15th and 16th Tamil Nadu Legislative Assemblies. Elected on his maiden attempt in 2016, he has been a member of Public Accounts Committee of the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly and an Executive Committee member of the Tamil Nadu chapter of Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. In June 2017, he was appointed the founding secretary of the IT wing of DMK, where he led the creation and scale-up of the party's technology platforms, building a robust digital and organizational ecosystem. Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan exemplifies academic excellence, global exposure, and committed public service. Ladies and gentlemen, in his public life, he has played a pivotal role in strengthening technology frameworks within his political party and advancing forward-looking discourse on economic governance, fiscal prudence, and digital transformations. With these words, I think we now invite Honorable Minister for his words and hope that we'll have a great learning from him.
The President of the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Srimati Vinodini Sukumar, the past President, immediate past President, Shri SP Kamath, who gave me such a wonderful introduction, the dignitaries on the stage, through Kashi Vishwanathan, IRSME Chairman of the Cochin Port Authority, the Vice President of the Cochin Chamber, Shri Bibu Punuran, the distinguished former President, Shri Venugopal C. Govind, the many office bearers, executive committee members, members of the Cochin Chamber, some of my friends I see here, many of my fellow alumnus of the Lawrence School of Lovedale, distinguished business people of Cochin, of Kerala, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for inviting me this evening to be here. I have to start with a bit of personal perspective. Last year, I was invited as a chief guest to my old school, the Lawrence School of Dale, and it was the 167th Founders Day. And when I spoke, I said, having served in many capacities, many countries, worked in organizations, the notion of aged institutions is actually undervalued and understood, in the sense that in my lifetime, I saw in my personal experience, my former bank, Lehman Brothers, which had existed for more than 125 years, one day, some bad calls, some movement in the market, went bankrupt. Took 10 years to resolve. At the end of 10 years, there was still $50 billion in the balance sheet. It was like a $600 billion something bankruptcy. So imagine something of that scale can exist for so long and then disappear one day. I also happened to be at the Twin Towers on the September of 2001. And was fortunate to, it was not another day because I would have been one of the victims, but something that had stood as a landmark for decades was there one day and gone the next day. So impermanence is the way of life. And in that sense, I was remarking at my old school that especially the last, let's say 150, 200 years in Indian history have been tumultuous times from the establishment of a clear British order after many millennia of our civilization existing, and then the transition from the East India Company to the Crown, and then from the Crown to independence, and then the formation of a new republic and a constitution, and all the different kind of divisions and bifurcations into states and so forth. So it's remarkable when institutions last that long. It's not actually a small thing. We kind of try to think of this year is 125, next year is 126, but actually it requires a whole lot of resilience, a whole lot of adaptability, some strong values and culture, as the President spoke about, but also the reality that the world is changing all the time and that institutions have to keep changing to suit what is happening in the world. And so first I want to congratulate the Chamber and all its members and its executive committee for continuing to have a track record. I thought 167 was a lot. I'm here at 169. So this is an amazing achievement first to all of you. The second, I must say that I feel like I have a tall order today because, as you all know acutely, the event was supposed to be tomorrow. And then, I ended up having a cabinet meeting tomorrow at such a time that I couldn't make it. So the President and in fact all of you were kind enough. When I called the President, I said, please get a different speaker. She said, no, we want you to come, so we will change the date. So partly because of the great magnanimity you've shown in changing the date, partly because I've read and heard now of the, many great leaders who have had the chance to benefit from this privilege of addressing you, I feel like I have to do a lot now to justify this evening, but I'll try my best. In life, as in the markets, timing is everything. I had an old boss who is now a very senior person, who was one of the few people considered by the current President of the United States for the new Fed chairman, lost out in the last round. And he used to tell me that actually in the markets, timing is more important than direction. It's not whether you should go long or short, it's when you should go long or short, because the markets, as the great economist Keynes said, can stay irrational a lot longer than you can stay liquid. Life is a bit like that. Timing is everything. In that sense, I would say I'm very fortunate to come to, first to be in this portfolio at this time in the evolution of the world, and then to come to give you this talk today about the notion of information technology and the way forward. I say it's that way because of two or three things. The first is that we have seen in the last, let's say, 15 years, two once in a century, for most of us that's more than once in a lifetime events. One was the great global financial crisis, which dramatically transformed society and politics all around the world. It exposed what was probably a long-standing rot in the system of governance. And as Warren Buffett said, when the water goes out, when the tide goes out, you realize who's been swimming without shorts. A lot of problems in the nature of governance, of fiscal management became apparent. And that has led to some dramatic changes, particularly in the stability of democracy around the world. A lot of disruptors have been able to gain ground in ways that I would have thought unimaginable, let's even say in the United States, where I lived for 20 years. The second was, again, the once in a century, once in a lifetime pandemic of COVID, which greatly shifted the trade patterns. Now, I must confess that if you start with the notion of what is the part of the economy that is goods and what is the part of the economy that is services, because after all, IT is mostly services, then that transformation probably started more than 30, 40 years ago. I can remember, in fact, in the late 80s when the services were not that big a part of the economy at all. And I would say at first the inception of networks, not internets, but local networks of thin clients, of AD converters, of the evolution of ERP systems, eventually the internet, eventually the World Wide Web, multidimensional, multimedia internet. And over this evolution, coming all the way to the nth coming of AI, and this time real traction, everything has become IT. The line between IT and other things is basically erased. From your fridge to your phone to your factories to your car. There's probably more electronics and more computer code in your car today than there was in any decent sized computer 40 years ago. So that's the level that IT has taken over everything. And if we start with the gross economic perspective first, pandemic has actually led to a reasonably noticeable shift away from goods and into services. So if I just give you some comparisons, the world economy used to be about 65%, 2015 to 2020, and now is about 66.5%. Advanced countries like the US, UK, north of 70, US is now touching 80% of its economy is services. Surprisingly, China, which is otherwise the manufacturing engine of the world, 54% of China's economy was services and 57% today. It's almost a 3% increase because of disruptions. Now, disruptions create change in rapid ways that otherwise would not happen. And in the case of COVID, the biggest disruptions were the supply chain was disrupted, transport was disrupted, the ability to retool was disrupted. CapEx was limited, physical investment was not possible. And so by nature, that led to a big shift because 2-3% of the global economy is not a small number. And if you look at India, roughly 65% of our services exports are related to only two things. About 40% is information technology and about 25% is consulting services, mostly around management, finance, auditing, etc. And this is hundreds of billions of dollars. So we are in an economy where services will continue to increase, and as the global order gets re-stratified, which is the other big development I want to talk about in a minute, you will find that goods are much easier to tax, to put tariffs on, to control movement of, and services are much harder. It's very hard to say what level of service originated from where. And I think there's a broader point, which is that the demographic model is changing quite abruptly. There are still countries where populations are growing, like India. But if you take the southern half of India, let's say, or third of India, actually we're a declining population. You take China, which once used to be the largest country in the world by population, the actual headcount has gone down by 2 or 3 million a year over the last 2-3 years. So it's a declining, not just a declining birth rate, but a declining total population. What had happened to Japan, what had happened to many Western economies is now happening to Japan. So the odds that we're going to get a transition back to goods being a significant part of the, or bigger part of the economy than they are now is very low. We're going to continue to see the services order keep increasing. In particular, this disruption, which in my opinion started with the global financial crisis and the notion of looking for villains, looking for reasons why people's lives were upended, looking for explanations why a significant part of the US, for example, found that their houses were on paper worth more than they could sell them, or their loans were greater than what they could sell them for, which led to the kind of disruption which is now reached full crescendo with the current president and his many trade kind of activities or breaking of trade activities. Then I would say that these disruptions, though they look abrupt and aggressive and out of context for us, if we see this on a long-term perspective, they are actually the breaking down of hyper-globalization. And this cycle is not the first time we have seen this in the history of the world. The extent of global integration of the economy actually goes up and down multiple times, at least even if we'll take the last couple of thousand years. In the days of the Roman Empire, it was a very much integrated global economy. And then as countries started getting independence and becoming separate entities, that broke down. In the era of colonialism, there was a very much integrated global economy. You could transfer money from, let's say, Madurai in, let's say, 1830, 1840 to Argentina through the British correspondent banking system. That was not true much later when it broke down and we started getting independence and so forth. So, actually globalization is not secularly increasing. The band of the height of globalization increases every cycle. But it goes up, it comes down, goes up, comes down. New peak every time. And what we had in the era, let's say, post-80s, post-GATT, post the formation of the WTO, and post the integration of banking standards through Basel I, Basel II, Basel III, was the era of super global kind of hyper-globalization. One trade order, everybody was using the same currency, the same banking model, the same kind of, what can I say, authority to regulate disputes. And that is now gone. It's gone. It's not just that we are seeing a short-term disruption. That is gone. It'll take 20, 30 years before a new model kind of some permanence emerges. It is not that one president or one man or one country is doing this. All over the world, what used to be global is now going to become bilateral, regional, this kind of trading blocks, and we're going to see a much more fragmented world order and much more currency volatility. And we have seen recently both a rapid and kind of rampant run-up in the price of so-called inflation hedges like silver and gold, and also great volatility, especially in the last few days. This is the way the world is going to continue to happen. Going to progress. And what is happening is that a lot of jobs are being automated away by technology generally. If I take manufacturing, in my experience, I started as an industrial consultant in the US in the late 80s. In, let's say, car factories, large assembly factories, where there used to be 100 people working and making good money, there are probably today 5. The rest has been automated away. It's all robotic. The robotics can do amazing things. In fact, I saw the extreme example of that because, as you may know, Hon'ble has a big operation in Chennai. And so somebody senior invited me when I was going to Singapore to give a talk to go and visit their research facility come manufacturing plant in the same building. They actually do research on manufacturing methods and advances, and then they have a plant, actual car manufacturing plant that produces cars 1 week a month, testing out the new models they've got. And I saw for the first time in my life at least, a car factory that was not an assembly line. The great innovation of auto assembly, which went all the way to Boeing planes, was an assembly line where the chassis starts at one end and comes out as a car or a plane on the other end. This was supposed to make it efficient, this was supposed to make it cheap, this was make it pattern repeatable, all these things. And this factory had a handful of people. It was as close to what they call dark factories. Because the robots were doing the work, they didn't actually need any light there. There was no human being needed. Robots moved all the parts together. There were 4 or 5 assembly stations. Everything came to the assembly station. Car started in one place and ended in one place. There was no assembly line. So we have seen great disruption in the nature of manufacturing, and we are on the verge of seeing that great disruption in white collar work, and in particular in information technology in the age of AI. Now, for those of you who are like me, quite old and have been in technology or related fields for a while, this is not the first coming of AI. AI has been around, the notion of neural networks, of machine learning, of some form of automation in the development of programs, or the learning ability of man-made code to not need man to keep updating it. This notion has been around a long time, or all of these notions. And what has really changed now is that the ability to generate and store data has become so vast compared to what it used to be. The old Moore's law about how fast processors would develop. That has been overtaken by how quickly the volume of data available and that can be stored has gone up, and the cost has come down. So there's almost infinite data sets now. And the processing power has in fact gone very high, particularly as you shift from the traditional CPUs to the GPUs all the way to quantum computing, where you're not doing traditional enumeration algorithms, but you're doing pattern matching of sophistication. And most importantly, this notion of cloud, where you don't have to buy $100 million worth of hardware to have access to an hour or 2 hours worth of $100 million of computing power. And so it frees up innovation. It liberates people from needing that kind of capex to be truly innovative. So what has happened now is that it is relatively much more impactful. Of course, the most proficient models in the world are still hugely capital intensive. Capital intensive for multiple reasons: for the cost of the data centers themselves, for the amount of energy they consume, for the amount of water, etc. that's needed for cooling. And left to a normal market, this transition would have taken a long time, because the cost of creating these has to be recovered somewhere. In a normal capital market, people expect returns. But what has really been a strange concatenation of circumstances now, ever since the global financial crisis, the amount of liquidity in the system, every central bank has been pumping out liquidity like it's going out of style, and that was before COVID. And after COVID, every government started pumping out liquidity like it was going out of style, because they want to give fiscal stimulus to protect the economy. And now there's so much money sloshing around in the system that the valuation of any good idea has gone through the roof. Hundreds of billions of dollars are being invested into the notion of some future AI return, while all of them actually losing money. This amount of return-free capital has never been available for these kinds of initiatives, at least in my experience of, let's say, reading the markets history from the 1920s till my time in the industry. And so you have now a path that is much faster than any natural path would have been, where this AI is entering our lives. Any of you think you're not using it, you're already using it. Every phone is using some level of AI. Every medical kind of advanced devices. So a family member had a health problem recently. They asked to take a sample, and they ran it through an AI engine that is looking at samples from thousands of people, and then looking at what their progression was, and then saying, therefore, what are the odds of this problem coming back? The best example I gave for that is radiologists. One of the great minds of AI, Jeff Hinton, predicted a little while ago. He said in a few years, AI will make radiologists redundant, because the machines will do better job at diagnosing X-rays and CT scans and all that, which is true. I have seen it with my own eyes. There's an Australian company that has a contract with the National Health Service of Australia. They have an office in Chennai. I have seen that the machine can diagnose X-rays better than any radiologist, for many reasons. One, it has infinite memory. It can look at a lot of things. It can look at longitudinal things. No radiologist can remember all the 10 X-rays he had seen of this person before. Machine can do that. It can compare it to the progression of other people's disease. It can do many things. The point is, after all of that, the need for radiology has actually gone up, not down, in the sense that that diagnosis cannot be delivered to a human patient and say, you, based on this, you take this treatment, without some other radiologist certified by the medical association signing off on that outcome. Now that radiologists need to be smart enough to know what are the limitations of the model, what are the limitations of the prediction, what are the consequences if this is slightly off, those kinds of things, and we need that accountability from a human being through a certification process. So in that sense, there's going to be a big transformation of the nature of work, and the risk we have, actually we have two risks. One is a market risk. If there is a big bubble in valuations, which there might be because there's so much excess liquidity, then maybe there's a market risk of crash and burn, but that's not in anybody's control. The good news is the money is in so few hands that they're all keeping the game up. If it was widely held, there'd be some sellers and some buyers, and you could see a crash. But since the money is held in so few hands by the very rich and by the very big asset managers, they will not let it crash. So the bubble may continue as some new normal with almost zero return rate for a long time. But that's a different risk. The other risk is that you're going to start creating more divide between the haves and the have-nots. If what it takes to be successful and really impactful in the age of AI is much more deep skill and much more thoughtfulness and human interaction ability, think of it whichever way you want, the ability to work well with people, to understand the human condition, to be urbane, to be, empathetic, to be, erudite. These kinds of things, we are not teaching people that anymore, as best I can tell. We're creating many people to go do work. The scale of education has expanded dramatically, and the nature of education has become much more towards creating people for work. So that is something that I worry about a bit. But if I have to talk about policy, I must say that though the government of India, among its many things that I disagree with, has done a decent job on things like the India Stack and digitalization and RuPay and all these things, those are not in my ambit. I am not a union minister, and I don't get to design policy for the entire country. It is their job to lay the platform. It is their job to do things like ONDC, which my friend Koshi is running very well. But in the state level, I want to talk about 4 or 5 things where I think the future of IT and application should be. And I'll start with, because I come from the Dravidian movement, the first thing we need to do is ensure that we are implementing our philosophy of social justice and equitable access in a world where, as I say, the risk is you're going to create a greater divide between the haves and the have-nots. So one of the things we're doing is that we are continuously increasing access. And again, I must give credit to the government of India. The one policy that has been an unalloyed success is mobile telephony and data. That has been, world class. Nobody else in the world can boast of bringing such cheap data access and internet connectivity access so quickly to so many parts and so many people. And to me, that is now almost a basic right. If you don't have access to a smartphone and data connection, you're basically living in a separate world. I'll tell you in a minute why. Because even government services we're moving on to online and trying to figure out how to cover that small gap that doesn't have access. The second is, particularly on the education front, the ability to get video instruction is actually a defining divide. Because now there's almost infinite information on the internet. You can get the equivalent of a PhD in physics for free. But you have to be able to access it, and it should be in the right language and the right way for you. And it's a lot of studies to show that video instruction is much, much better than text or any other instruction. To get video instruction, you have to have a high-speed access. Now, of course, if you get universal 5G, 6G is a different story. But for many people, like you have K-Phone in Kerala, we have Tanfinet in Tamil Nadu. And our ambition is to make sure that we can get at least 100 Mbps lines into every village. We have just finished the network for about 12,000 or about 12,650 villages. And we will provide it somewhere between 199 and 299 rupees a month, this kind of high-speed access. And the third, which had been a program for a while, back in the previous government, they used to give relatively low performance, low level laptops to school children for various reasons, mostly because of the pandemic and some financial stress that was stopped in the previous regime, and we couldn't start it up again for a while. But this year, the Chief Minister has prioritized, and we have, through my department, procured 1 million laptops, 10 lakh laptops, and we are giving it to college students, with the distinction that this time we're getting relatively high-end laptops with built-in AI, with Copilot from Microsoft, with Perplexity, loaded for free. And we are trying to get students into the learning model and to the comfort of using AI. And in the age of AI, the ability to do what they call prompt engineering, which is the ability to ask the right questions, is actually going to be a differentiating skill. So we start working on that. But as much as that is the foundation and the platform, to me, the biggest opportunity actually exists in the way that governments run and the way that governments interact with citizens. There are many variables driving this. The global financial crisis was one, the pandemic was one, fiscal kind of profligacy was one. But the net result is that around the world, the model of governance is either weakening or failing. There is a lot of kind of resentment against the basic promise of democracy, that you would not allow this kind of, emperor level, king level, robber baron level people to get ultra rich and everybody else would stay down. And it's evident all over the world. And what that does is it eventually leads to, then, is this the right kind of politics? Is this the right kind of constitution? Is this the right kind of republic? And so as governance fails, as the promise of a democratic republic fails, increasingly there is almost a kind of anti-establishment moving to anarchy view of the world, and disruptors are able to come and really seize on that. I had a conversation with a very senior minister from one of the European Union countries when we were talking about this, as well as some people in America. And he said to me, he said, Thiaga, the problem is that if you and I say that we can do better, they say, you are the system. You've already been here for long enough. Why do we believe you can do better? If somebody who's a rank outsider comes and says, I will clean up the swamp, I will throw all these rascals out, they're likely to get traction. The fact is they can't even do what we can do. But they will get traction because people are just angry. There's an old saying in the US, people are so angry, the answer is no. Now what is the question? We're reaching that level. And to me, the best solution to overcome all of this, in my personal experience, both when I was in finance, human resource management, now in IT, is to massively apply technology to the way the government functions first, and then to the way that the government and the citizens connect. So to give you an example, almost all governments are in this scenario where the vacancy rate between sanctioned jobs and filled posts is somewhere north of 40%. That means if there are 100 sanctioned jobs in any particular department, there are probably 60 people. The problem is the average. If you look at this average in its worst scenario, where there should be only 50 people, there are 80. And where there should be 80 people, there are 30. That's why it's averaging out to this 50. And so you have a situation where the actual processes are failing. I have to be a bit careful in my words. I was just telling the president that when you're in opposition, you can talk anything you want because, you can be quite frank. When you're in government, you've got to be a bit guarded. You can't say everything that openly. So I'll say it without being drastically open. I would say that actually technology has to be the way that the government improves the efficiency, reliability, robustness of its functioning, because right now it is not doing that. And in fact, I can give you 2 or 3 examples in Tamil Nadu, which I would say have made a reasonable impact, but there's a lot more to do. The first is, when I was finance minister, I started actually saying, instead of every time trying to ask people to apply or to start data collection from scratch, to ask every department to give a different data set, we are going to run an integrated data set across the state and use that in many cases for us to pre-decide if we're going to have a program, we know almost everything about everybody, right? That's what the government has. It has your birth records, it has your educational records, it has your health records. The government actually knows a lot of things about a lot of people, about almost every person. Has your voter ID, has your motor driving license, has your ration card, has it. So let's put this all together. First figure out if we are going to have programs, who should be included by our default definition first instead of asking them to apply from scratch. Right? And we started doing this for various things like waivers that we had promised. And the results were spectacular. Right? They were just spectacular. And so we doubled up on that. And after I came to IT, I've taken it to even the next level. And our integrated databases are really the platform on which anytime we consider new programs, we make decisions about whether they're cost effective, whether they're wide ranging. And we created something, it's in the public domain, I think, called the State Family Database. And we started mapping all the benefit schemes. And it was shocking to me that there are some 500 and something subsidy or grant or loan or exemption scheme in the government of Tamil Nadu that we have counted so far. There may be more, I don't know. Out of these 500 and something schemes, about 300 and something of them have reasonable data platforms that we can tell who's getting, what are they getting, etc. And out of those 300 and something, if we start mapping to the database of around 2.3 crore families we have or something, then we see that there are some schemes in which the entire state, there are only 10 beneficiaries. Question is, should the scheme continue? Who is actually the beneficiary? What does it cost us to administer the scheme? In some other schemes, there's one family at the other extreme that is benefiting from 23 schemes, 23 subsidies or grants or waivers. Then the question is that the intended outcome? So, once you start having this data, actually you can start thinking about a lot of things differently, first order, second order, third order analysis. We also do things like dashboards, which everybody does. It started, I think, back in the integrated Andhra and the age of Chandrababu Naidu. We all do more of it. And we have effectively gone almost 100% to an e-office system, which I can tell you from personal experience after processing thousands of files in my old job. I think I processed 7,000 files in 2 years. Will save many, many forests worth of papers. Because this old file system is just the worst system. And if it gets disrupted somewhere, nobody knows where a bundle is, right? So going to things like e-office. So in my view, if I sum all of it up together, I say if the government should be functioning at 100%, maybe we'll never get there, maybe we'll get to 80 or 90. But in many cases, the government's efficiency is more like 40, 50, 55. And so there's a lot of headroom there in how IT can change the government's functioning. As for the Citizen Connect, it was my stated intent when I was in finance that I would not like to build any more government buildings and any more government offices. Actually, the headcount is coming down. I've just told you, when I was opposition MLA, the vacancy rate was in the 30%, 35% range. Now it's north of 40. This is the way it's going for various reasons. The whole HR system needs to reform actually, but that's a different story for a different day. But as the number of people keep coming down, why do we keep building more offices? The job is to remove the need for a human interface. To the extent that human beings can avail of government services, information, data, requests, certificates, whatever they need, automated. Not only do we get an efficiency benefit, not only do we deal with the shortage of staff, not only do we not require them to travel from place to place, but we also get removal of friction or rent seeking or bad behaviors. And so, we've done a lot of that already. I'll give one example is that in our pension system, everybody who's above pension age and gets the pensions, I'm talking about government pensions, in some form, you could be teacher, you could be government servant, you could be corporation staff, whatever. You used to have to come up with a life certificate once a year and say that you're still alive. So you can get once every fiscal year. And this used to take a lot of work. You'd have to go to a doctor and do all this and then physically come and submit it, get it uploaded, etc. So when I was in finance, we basically tied up with the post bank. And we said there will be a validation in your house. You pay once a year 70 rupees as a fee to the post bank. Post bank will come, validate your identity, take your picture with a bit of AI in it that shows that you're alive as opposed to still, and send that in to us, and then you're done. You don't need anything more after that. that just saves so much people, so much traveling, and so much heartache about possible friction costs. And many people were not that mobile, right? If you're 75, 80, it's not that easy for you to get around for some people. So small innovations like that, small improvements like that can be done many, many ways. Ideally, everybody should be able to do it from their phone, but sometimes you need to submit documents, sometimes you need to get printouts, you need certificates, etc. So we have these e-Seva centers, which everybody has around this country. But we expanded that from somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000 active ones on a list of 8,000. And we offered it up to entrepreneurs in every village, in every block of every city. We said, whoever wants to set one up, you meet the basic criteria, we'll help get you a small business loan. If you don't have the money, you can get the equipment. And so we've expanded it now to about 30,000 e-Seva centers. And the ambition is that nobody should need to go more than a few hundred meters from their home if they're in a city, and maybe a couple of kilometers in a rural area, and you should be able to get increasing number of services: driver's license, ration card, community certificate, birth certificate, death certificate, educational certificate, whatever you want, you can get it. And we have created this notion of a blockchain online wallet that you own with the government, in which you can store your certificates so that when you need to deliver them to some application, you can actually use it right out of your e-wallet, which is a blockchain-enabled wallet. About 3 point something lakh people have availed of it, and about 35 lakh documents are already on it. It's early days. We can do a lot more. So once we have this kind of approach, my vision, my ambition is to learn from the best. If you look at places like Singapore and UAE, they have one ID. It's called Sing Pass in Singapore. It's called UAE Pass in the UAE, where you have one interface to the government. You log in once, you go through the security once of two-factor authentication, whatever. After that, you want to pay your income taxes, it's here. You want to pay your electricity bill, it's here. You want to get a life certificate, it's here. You want to get a water payment, is here. You want to get an electric connection, it's here. All of it is within one portal. That is the government for you. That brings so many benefits as opposed to the hundreds of systems that governments run now, and the security risk and the data risk and cyber risk and all that's happening. So I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. And what I'm most excited about is that AI will remove a lot of the limitations of these systems. So we are already experimenting, and I have a whole presentation, but I won't bore you. But in Tamil Nadu, once we realize the value of this data, and once we realize that having a backbone data system is so kind of high, there doesn't require to be a lot of computing power. I mean, it's very hard these days to get high up on the priority chain to buy, let's say, $100 million worth of computing power, because there's a lot of demand. Very few companies that make those kinds of GPUs. There's a lot of demand. But if you have distributed processing of small applications, particularly in health, we have AI supported on the mobile phone, self-validation of your retinal scans and checking your eyes in conjunction with Arvind Eye Hospitals, and Google was a partner for us. We have oral health checkups using your own phone and a vision system. We have crop assessment and support for farmers through an app on their phone. And we're trying to bring relatively low computing power, relatively large database analyzed, well-trained models into these kinds of applications. And to me, at the end, the middle ambition is that any citizen should be able to get 100% of the interaction with the government done by voice. If that happens, now you have removed that last barrier that says unless you have a smartphone, unless you have a PC, unless you have a tablet, you cannot get access. And we have done enough studies to know that whenever we design bottom of the pyramid programs, they are effective up to the second lowest level of the pyramid. So let's take old age pensions. When we try to give old age pensions, we are able to get to those people that are connected enough to society to know that they're eligible for the program, and to have somebody either take them to a place to fill it or help them fill it out or have a phone or whatever. The people we lose are the people at the lowest end of the pyramid, because they either live alone, don't have a smartphone, are not aware of what their benefits are, and there is nobody to help them do that. And so if that can be done by voice, then I think it will be really that last barrier removed. Because right now you still need an interface, you need an input device, you need all these things. And the more data we have, the more likely that becomes, because by them speaking and saying their name, we can pull who they are, and then we can cross-reference all the other data. So were it up to me, actually, we do a lot more on that. But for now, other political variables come in that place, so we're there. But there's a second higher level ambition, which is that in this age of AI, India, which is otherwise a huge player in the IT services industry, is certainly going to see a setback in the short term. You have already seen that the big service majors, the TCSs, Infosys, Cognizance of the world, which otherwise used to hire tens of thousands of people a year, have either slowed down their hiring or for the first time in their history actually laying off people. That's because their customers are forcing it on them, saying that you must be using AI, you must remove a lot of this low-level headcount, and you must kind of automate it and therefore make my cost lower. But that is already starting to be felt in the market. So if you take our government, we came to office in 2021. At that time, there were only 2,000 registered DPIIT startups in Tamil Nadu. Now there are 12,000. So a lot of people have realized that the future is not in going for one of these kind of relatively cookie cutter, relatively large company jobs, but in trying to innovate. And the great thing that comes out of that is that they innovate to the problems that they see. So whenever I go around, we have so many initiatives. We have something called Startup TN, we have something called ITNT, which is a deep tech incubator. We bring in experts to help them with administration, with hand-holding, incubation. We have lots of services, and this number is reflective of that. We even have funding programs, government venture capital fund for SC/ST entrepreneurs. When I was in finance, we set up an emerging sector seed fund under our alternate investment manager called TNIFMC. So we have many ways the government can support, and Tamil Nadu always had this great luxury that every year we have the highest number of patents filed in the Chennai office within India. So around 15,000 patents a year are filed. So we want to leverage that, and we want to provide all the resources. We have done lots and lots of things. It's not an advertisement lecture, so I don't want to get into that. But the future is innovation has to be, and self-employment and creation of solutions to local problems in urban policy, in agriculture, in energy management, in waste management. This is where the innovations are coming, and this is hugely encouraging. These are not going to become billionaires. They are not going to become, the next big kind of mega players. But they are going to meaningfully change lives of themselves first, because they become self-reliant and self-employed, and of their communities around them. And in fact, when I was in finance, I set up a model for the government to be pitched to by these startups. And when the government department decides that it's useful to give them an order, we changed the Tender Transparency Act that said if you're a startup, up to 50 lakh rupees, there is no tender requirement. You can be given that government contract without a tender, as long as we can prove that you're innovative enough and unique enough. And then, because we have these funding arms, if we really like it that much, the government can buy equity in them and further validate them, because then it's a win-win-win. These entrepreneurs, if the government itself is a buyer, then your model must be valid, and then we can get some upside. Of course, the implementation gives us the first benefit, and then the investment gives us the second benefit. So I think in the transition away from repeatable mundane jobs to white collar automation through AI, innovation is going to have to be the kind of relief valve. And to do that, we have to look at so many different support mechanisms and encouragements and guidance. Because see, every time you have a new paradigm, you need somebody who's there to mentor, to be a forerunner, to provide coattails. That's what the reservation system did back in the day, in the early days of social justice. The reservation system was inefficient in the short term, but made sure that in every community, in every village, in every area, there was some forerunner, some mentor, somebody to look up to and say, if she can do that, I can too. If he can do that, I can too. and to help them, guide them, so forth. That's what I think we need now a lot in this space. But I think I've spoken for a long time. I've gone over my time. So I felt I had to justify my existence here on shifted day. But I could go on for a while, but I won't. Thank you very much for the patience. Thank you for the flexibility. I think the future is very bright, particularly for the southern states. I think this is a chance for us if we really want to rethink the nature of education. I'm saying from the elementary school up, we're already doing okay in terms of trying to adapt college graduates and last year students to the new era. But if we really want to leapfrog and create the kind of inflection for us that China had starting in the 90s, it cannot come for us through manufacturing. There's no way we can compete with China's huge advantage in the manufacturing sector. But if we can, in this IT, AI-driven age, create a talent pool and centers of excellence using government data and supporting innovators, then I think we can be, for the next 20 years, in the kind of path that China was from 1990 to 2010, which was so transformative. It created more wealth than any other 20 years in the history of the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now the floor is open for Q&A. Due to paucity of time, we'll only take 4 to 5 questions.
Wonderful session that you gave. Just one point that I wanted to get your opinion on. So we Indians are generally known to be, very adaptive, like our UPI system of payment. When it came, it's like a role model to the world. So we also, when like the Facebook or WhatsApp got introduced in India, we took to it like the duck takes to water. So we easily adapt to technology. But what we see these days is in the newspapers we read that Meta is facing a lot of heat in the Supreme Court on the issue of privacy or data confidentiality. So when it comes to AI and when we adapt to AI, do you see any issues with respect to data confidentiality or privacy? Especially now we have the Supreme Court decisions and the laws that protect our privacy. And if we adapt to AI, do you see any challenges there? And if yes, what can we do to tackle those challenges?
This Vodafone's M-Pesa system in Kenya, something like 70% of the GDP of Kenya went through one app. So it's not that we are that uniquely adaptable. Good technologies come, and if they fill a void, they get filled by whoever the best application is. I'd like to think we're adaptable. But that having been said, this question of privacy is hugely important. It becomes much more important when you have a few oligopolists or monopolists who have all the data. And the reality is that regulators can never get ahead of innovators. Maybe you can set guardrails, but innovation will always exceed the ability of regulators to pre-think what is coming. That is evident to me from all the years I was in the financial markets. But what you need is a very clear, continuous assessment of the situation and an iterative formulation of policy, so that as and when you see things evolving, you immediately close off that. It's a little bit of a cat and mouse game, but it's very hard for me to envision an a priori law or bill that can prevent all bad things from happening. Of course, you can have things like the government of India said that all the data must be within India, that you must have certain safeguards. You can, use the stick sometimes, find people who have exceeded the limits. So data privacy is a huge problem. But again, if the utilization of data, if there is such a thing as, pick a number, 100, that is 100% utilization. Somewhere around 75, 80, we start worrying about whether the trade-off between privacy and data-based analysis is starting to be breached. In many cases, we are at like 25.
The increasing haves and have-nots divide. Now, again, there are certain demographical issues, geographical issues, all are there in Indian system. Now, looking at the spending that we make on the R&D, is it sufficient And going forward, what are the key sectors that we should look at spending more in getting more innovation happening in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the right guy to say which sector. I'm saying broadly in science, broadly in technology, we need, and broadly in the notion of R&D, we are not anywhere near where we should be. Part of the problem is that our politics has descended to the kind of lowest common denominator. It's not unique to Tamil Nadu or to Kerala or to India. It is, as I say, all over the world. It has become a vicious cycle. You see what happens? When the rich get very rich and the poor get left behind, your taxation base erodes unless you're willing to hyper-tax the super rich. That is not politically feasible because they are the ones who are paying all the campaign control. You know, this is long ago, my good friend now, Dr. Rajan wrote a book called Saving Capitalism from the Capitalists. He said what happens is that you have a level playing field, somebody wins. And if they win big, they start controlling the outcome of the system or the kind of design of the system through lobbying, through other kinds of means. And if it becomes so exacerbated, at some point, they build such moats because they can buy elections, they can do unlimited campaign financing, they can do unlimited lobbying, and the law itself is changed to suit them and leave the others behind, right? So this problem is like at least 20, 30 years in the making. Technology has exacerbated it because now you can have universal scale where one company can make hundreds of billions of dollars a year, or like in the case of Apple, sit on something like $1 trillion in cash. It's ridiculous in one company. But then they have so much political power that nobody's willing. So it's a vicious cycle in the sense that it starts with lax political or strong political, lack of strong political leadership, and therefore the government's revenues keep sliding as a percentage of the GDP. I'm not even saying there are different models in different countries. What is the scale of government? I'm not questioning that. Whatever the scale of government, that portion of it which was financed by actual revenue has kept on sliding all over the world. In Sweden, in Singapore, in Tamil Nadu, maybe not Singapore is the exception, but in India anyway. And that portion which is financed by debt, because spending can't go down, you don't want to be politically damaged. So spending stays up and financing is more by debt than by actual revenue collection. That means the rich are getting even richer because they're not paying their own share. So you have a vicious cycle, and where does spending then get cut first is in things that have long-term impact, because next election is the first concern. You want to invest in something that will take 20 years to give results, who's going to get re-elected for that? So this is the nature of politics, and it's universal. I'm not commenting on any party. So that's why I say that you need some kind of disruption to the trajectory we're on. If you want to get back to the heydays, like the epitome of good R&D spending was, let's say, post-World War II America, where they were spending, lots and lots of money to develop the kind of technologies that made them who they are, or Japan for that matter, or Germany did a lot of that.
So your take on the very future of Indian IT companies, because AI is already started programming. So, and today there are some papers and I'm told that all the IT companies stocks are down by 5% and all that. So the very future of IT companies.
Look, I think there will be fewer and fewer mega companies, and there will be lots and lots of small creative companies that do very special things. That's, I think, the nature. Of course, one could argue that the problem had already gone too far on one side, like a Google or a Facebook or a Amazon had already been allowed to do monopolistic things for too long, and the regulators are slowly waking up and going past their lobbying power to start breaking them up. But I think in every way, for the next 20, 30 years, we should be seeing, sometimes because it is good for society, sometimes because it's a side effect of the nature of evolution, that you will see fewer and fewer large employers and more innovators and creative people. Like the AVGC industry, for example, is seeing a big boom and is going to continue, the video games and graphics and animation. And there, it's very high margin return, but relatively few people. But then there are hundreds of different people who make different creative models. And so I think in a good way, it is going to lead to a much more fragmented and unique and creative kind of IT industry. Look, at the end of the day, some things will never get automated, right? You'll still need plumbers and mechanics and, electricians. The machines, the robots are not going to get so cheap that they'll come to every house and do that. So there's going to be a need for skilled labor in ways that will not be touched for a long time. In some other ways, AI will only be augmenting. The true kind of remove jobs completely proportion of the IT industry is not that large for the foreseeable future. It's going to be disruptive, but it's not like going to disrupt like 50% of all jobs, right? It's going to disrupt the lower end jobs, in my view, because access to this technology doesn't come free. For now, there's this huge market bubble that is financing it, so you get a lot of things for free. At some point, it's not going to be universally available for free if it's high cost to generate. So there'll be some natural, tapering of this kind of burst. So I think it'll be a one generation kind of thing. And for the next 20, 25 years, something like 1/4 of the world's human capital will be Indian, will be, the kind of workforce. So there will be the need. How much of it will be done by online, how much domestic, how much kind of migration, immigration, I think will change over time.
We'll take one last question.
Yeah. So, you had mentioned. So you had mentioned about the rate of digitization, which was very exciting, and you were touch basing upon how blockchain tech is going to change the world. So regarding the India Stack, also what the government today is going big on is of digitizing land records. But the pace at which that is happening is relatively slow, maybe because of the complexities of it. So my question is, when do you think we will have 100% digitized land records? And secondly, how do you think tokenization of land records, which has been on the talks recently, will impact us in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah, I didn't say that blockchain is the future of anything. I'm saying blockchain actually works really well in keeping relatively incorruptible records that are to be distributedly accessed. So for example, I was in the markets. If you wanted to keep syndicate records like loan syndicate records or bond syndicate records, then I think blockchain is a fantastically good model because it reduces the risk of either manipulation or single point of failure. In that sense, I think blockchain is a fantastically good model fit for land record management. The problem we have is not whether blockchain is good or not. The problem is that our land records are a complete mess. Anybody who's done any assessment of this, there are 3-4 places where the records are maintained, and it is the legacy of the British era, because what they were interested in is in generating revenue from the piece of land. They didn't care about who owned it so much. So unlike in the US where title was everything, in the UK model of India, revenue was everything. So the record management system or the record design is actually badly flawed. You have multiple places, and then I could speak for ages on this. Technology cannot fix the fact that you have bad data and bad historical records. It can to some extent, but not really. So our limitations are not because the technology has limitations, but because our record system is completely, irrational. Actually, it's quite like bad. Some states have done faster, better, like Telangana. I'd say my friend PTR did a lot of work. It wasn't perfect, but it was good because you're starting a new state. We started from a clean slate. The rest of us don't have that luxury. We have to start with what we got. Tamil Nadu has been trying to digitalize land records for a long time. We have something. Even the government's land records are not that great. That is, the government's records of its own land are not that great. So we have serious flaws in the system. I think if I was in charge of it, I would say start with cleaning up the model of land record management first, title and record management, And then you worry about which technology you'd use to digitalize and which pieces you would start first. It's a hugely complex problem. It's not the limitation of technology.
Yeah. First of all, let me thank you very much for the wonderful session. I am Dr. Kishore Muralidharan. So my question is, now that we are actually promoting digitalization at every level, and even at the government level, and we are ensuring that the common man is able to access data, he is able to access any information from the government. At the same time, this now with the coming of AI, the cyber criminals are also coming up in a very big way, and a common man who are not very equipped with the IT, they are being affected by this. And is the government taking any steps to prevent such kind of criminal cyber frauds, where every person, individual is exposed to such phishing, and many people come out and speak about it, many people don't, and our maybe the police system, they are not equipped enough to provide the kind of support to the people who are exposed to these problems. Thank you.
It's a huge problem because I think, as we spoke earlier, innovation gets ahead of regulation, and utilization or penetration of technologies get ahead of training for safeguards, right? The bad actors are always ahead of the average citizen. They may not be ahead of the best, but they are certainly ahead of the average. So it is very tragic. I would say at least in Tamil Nadu and probably in Kerala, we have seen some patterns on these, and we are starting to do some things about it. And at least in the few cases that I have personally had to intervene because somebody has come and asked me for a favor, some combination of better safeguards in the banking system, plus increased training for special divisions in the police, which we do a lot, and they're actually quite good now. They can do things that they don't advertise, but they can actually do a lot of things. Plus more societal awareness, and that societal awareness cannot come, sadly I would say, only from government. People only pay that much attention. So we need to do a lot more kind of collective work with the civil society to try, particularly the aged people, because they're the most vulnerable. They didn't grow up like, my sons grew up as people using technology every day. They're smart enough to know what not to touch. But a lot of older citizens, and particularly in places like Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where we have the affluence to get it, many generations are separated because the younger generations live overseas and the older generations live here, and they have enough assets to be at risk. So particularly in places like this, the risk is quite high. I would say we have started to do enough. We have started to do more than we did before, and more awareness, more. And I'll give credit to the government of India also, though sometimes they try to do bad things in the shape of good things, like try to force apps onto your phone for their own purpose also. But they have taken a proactive approach in some ways. And the amount of public safety messages that are now coming from RBI, from the government, from the IT, MeitY, whether you like it or not, has gone up quite a lot. I think the awareness in places where people have education, they can read, they can understand. We're getting better. Across the country, I don't know, I don't have the data, but it's a big problem, I agree.
As a token of our appreciation and gratitude, may I now request President Vinodini Ma'am to present a memento to the Honorable Minister. Have the proud privilege of inviting Shri Kashi Vishwanathan Sir, Chairman of Cochin Port Authority, to address the gathering with a felicitation. Sir, please.
Most respected Shri Palanivel Thiagarajan, Hon'ble Minister for IT and Digital Services from Government of Tamil Nadu, Madam Vinodini Sukumar, Shri Venugopal Govind, Shri Bibu, Shri Kamath, and all the past presidents of the chambers, and ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. It gives me immense pleasure to be among the one in the dais by the side of Shri Palanivel Thiagarajan, whom I adore for his in-depth insights into the financial systems, governance, IT. So I used to listen to his lot of his speeches, interviews. Very rarely you find a politician giving interview with authority without any hesitation in his views and opinions in the overall common interest of the community and the country at large. Sir, I am really privileged and to be amongst you here. Before I start anything about the Cochin Chambers of Commerce and for its glorious service to the Cochin in particular and Kerala in general, Sir was mentioning about the social justice, equality, wealth distribution, how the Dravidian movement has helped the state of Tamil Nadu to make this part of equality and distribution of economy into the masses. I am one among the beneficiary. I am here because of the proactive measures of the state in bringing children from the villages to study by giving free noon meal scheme in those days. Also, by providing various financial support systems for the students who don't have money to study. So as a son of a farmer, if I am standing here, it is because of the grace of Almighty and the environment in the state which facilitated people like me to study and to grow in the system. Otherwise, we would not have come to. So I thank the government for giving this opportunity to educate, enlighten, empower, and give that back to the society in whatever way you can. Sir, once again, I thank the government of Tamil Nadu for the opportunities which it has given to the masses to educate and then enlighten and seek what you want with an learned mind. It is not, you cannot ask anything. You should ask responsibly to make the responsible citizens. It has done a great job. Now coming back to the job of facilitating or felicitating the Cochin Chambers of Commerce. Cochin Port, when it was established in 1928, May 26, when the first vessel was berthed in the anchor point of Cochin Port, the route was laid by Cochin Chambers of Commerce by interacting with the then British government to have a deep water port in the state, in Cochin in particular. And that is how, as one of the players in the history of making of this Cochin port, I would like to appreciate and congratulate the Cochin Port, Cochin Chambers of Commerce for its phenomenal role in bringing Cochin Port into being. As we all aware, Cochin Port was the foundation or the pinnacle of the economic growth of this city. Today, if Ernakulam is seen, or Ernakulam district is seen as the highest district capital growth, GDP, it is about 1.67 lakh crore is given by this particular district in the state, and it is highest with the 4.63 lakh as per capita income. So the basis for this is the industry, commerce, trade. All these things were catalyzed by Cochin Chambers of Commerce with various programs that they run. They do activities with respect to interacting with the government, and they have successfully engaged and we were able to convince the government in various schemes and measures that they need for the growth of the trade and commerce in the government of Kerala, as well as with their parent body in the national level. Also, they were able to involve in making policies direction in a way which is good for the trade and commerce. With respect to Cochin Port, I would like to again appreciate the effort of the trade chambers, Cochin Chambers of Commerce, very deeply involved in capacity building by training people and also by disseminating information so that whatever is the latest which is happening in various fields of trade and commerce, the members are aware. And also, I was very happy to hear when the budget was announced on 1st of February, the chamber has taken the initiative to disseminate what are the various schemes, various measures which are brought out in this budget to the members. So also it is taking a lot of, it is not only just creation of wealth or promotion of trade or commerce, but also it is also taking active role in creating community development. So various measures, today also I was told, Mr. Karta was mentioning they had a blood donation camp in the morning. So the amount of community service that you do as a group is really phenomenal. Not only giving the health service related matters, but also you are engaging with colleges, you are engaging with universities, you are engaging with the hospitals in providing the community service in the field of education, in the field of health. I consider education and health are the two important sectors for the well-being of the community at large. So, and you are doing that service phenomenally well. I should definitely appreciate for the effort that you are taking in promoting trade and commerce as well as the industries. As Sir was mentioning, one of the change or the disruptions which is happening, like today service sector is taking the stride in the overall economic development of the country. And he was mentioning China was 54 and it has gone to 57% of their economy. And our country, which is also playing really a lasting role in services, and we, all of us together in the supply chain management are also playing a significant role so that the service sector of the maritime field has to grow so that today about 95% of our cargo transport is taking place through foreign black vessels, and the government is taking effort, and you must have seen through the budget that by 2047 India should become number 5 in the shipbuilding industry and in ownership, and also by cargo transport, export and import, about 50% of the vessels should be of India. So that is the direction which the government is working, by which I am sure the service sector in the maritime field will definitely is going to have a greater role to play, and all of you and collectively are going to be part of that change and the part of that progress. In summary, I would like to acknowledge and appreciate the Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry for its critical role, crucial role that it has played in shaping the Kerala's commercial landscape through infrastructure, advocacy, export services, business support, policy influence, capacity building, and social contributions that support both economic growth as well as the community welfare. With the motive of equality, sustainable development, and green movement, I am sure Cochin Chambers of Commerce are here to stay. The 169 years of their existence will be there for hundreds of years to come and will be a pillar of strength in the progress of this country. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your warm words. As a token of appreciation and gratitude, may I now request our Vice President Vibhu sir to present a memento to the Port Chairman. Up next, we have the address by Shri John Verghese, GM, Ed IT and Digital Banking of Dhanlakshmi Bank Limited.
Very good evening, Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, Hon'ble Minister for IT and Digital Services, Government of Tamil Nadu, Srimati Vinodini Sukumar, President of the Cochin Chapter, all the dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, the office bearers of Cochin Chamber, the past office bearers, and my dear friends. At the outset, let me congratulate Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry for celebrating 169th Chamber Day. The service which you are giving to the progress of the country, specifically to the state of Kerala, is noteworthy, and let me pray and congratulate and wish you the best to do more service to the country and Kerala. As you know, the banking industry plays a pivotal role in the economic growth of any country. For that matter, in India also, the banking industry has given its role in ensuring that the economy grows in a steady phase. As Minister was talking about disruptions, since I heard IT in the banking, I should speak about the disruptions which has happened in banking, especially on account of IT. If you look at the history of a banking system, I joined bank in 1996 as a probationary officer, not as an IT officer. The only luxury of a technology product was a big calculator. There was nothing else. That is, the pre-1990, we can say that everything was manual. And from 1990 to say 1999, we have seen changes in the banking. First started with ALPM, it's called as Advanced Ledger Posting Machines, where it was one specific system, PC system for posting ledgers for a particular SB account or current account. There was no interconnections. Then came changes in total branch automation, where branches were interconnected using a server and clients using only, which will give the figures of only that branch. 2000 is when internet connectivity, lease lines, which has come into picture, and the branches were computerized as core banking system. The core banking system actually laid the foundation for the banking system in India to leverage on the technology to give the service to the customers. Then came the payment system innovations, NEFT, RTGS, the debit cards, the credit cards, all the changes has come. So in 2015, another disruption has come by fintech, whereas Minister was mentioning about small-time players have actually disrupted the way banking is done. All the banks, including Dhanlakshmi Bank, had taken the privilege of using the service of fintech to give 100% digital service to the customers. Be it loan origination, be it documentation, be it credit to the customers, everything has become digital. Now, the era of AI has already come in. The banks have started using AI in its form, either in small form or big form. We are using extensively in fraud risk management. Somebody was mentioning about the frauds which are happening. We are using it extensively in the fraud risk management system, which will ensure that the customers are proactively reminded of the frauds which can erupt into their system due to the transactions. The AI is, as ministers has spoken about in his speech, the AI is going to disrupt the banking also, and banks are ready to adopt it. But the other side is the security or the cyber security risk which are happening in the the transactions. The cyber security posture, as we call in a bank, is very critical for a bank to ensure that the data or the transactions which you do in a bank are safe. Thanks to Reserve Bank of India, because banks are highly regulated, there have been reasonable number of master circulars for IT governance, risk, compliance, cybersecurity framework. There are a whole lot of master circulars, and the Reserve Bank has already proactively given a master circular for a working group for AI, responsible AI, ethical AI, how banks should implement AI. So with this, I want to ensure you that the technology in banks are being used extensively in the way which the country wants us to use. All the banks are geared up for that. All the products which we use, be it UPI, anything, is highly secured in the way as of now. I will not be able to predict whether it will be safe tomorrow, but it's a continuous process. It's an iterative process. Every day we will have to improve. I think that's being done by the banks. And thanks to the community, the Chamber of, the Cochin Chamber of Commerce for reposing faith in, bank. I am also proud to say that we are associated as a platinum sponsor. And many of the members are already having a relationship with us. So I request all of you to start a relationship with us. My team from, the Ernakulam regional office is there. You can meet them. We have a booth there. Thank you very much for the time. Thanks a lot.
As a token of appreciation and gratitude, may I now request the Executive Committee member, Santosh Kumar sir, to present a memento to Shri John. Now, it's our privilege to invite the senior-most past president, Shri Venugopal C. Govind, who served as Cochin Chamber's president during the period 1974-75, that is, which is over 5 decades ago. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear a few words from sir.
Good evening, all of you. Honored Chief Guest of the Day, Shri Palanivel Thiagarajan, our good friend Shri Kashi Vishwanathan, Madam Vinodini Sukumaran, all distinguished past presidents, incoming presidents, committee members, dear friends. It's truly a very great day for all of us, a proud moment for all of us in the Cochin Chamber, for the simple reason that this chamber has achieved 169 years of glorious service to the state, to the nation, to the industry, the commerce, all around. I don't think there are many institutions in this country, any part of this country, which has had such a creditable record of achievements. As was mentioned, it was not just setting up of the Cochin port or setting up of the support systems and all that that Cochin Chamber was involved in. From the very planning of the entire structure of the whole Cochin city itself, Ernakulam as a whole, planning and developing and creating the Wellington Island, several bridges around, the Cochin port from the very planning stage itself, the rail system from Shornur to Cochin, the Tapal system, as they call the postal system, the communication systems, you name it. Anything and everything that has been done in the early days till the nation became independent, Cochin Chamber was very much behind. And Cochin Chamber was one of the most respected organizations in the whole of this country. In fact, Cochin Chamber had its birth even before the Associated Chambers of Commerce, New Delhi was formed, because Cochin Chamber is one of the prime sponsor members of the Associated Chamber. And Cochin Chamber always had a permanent seat in the Associated Chambers. And we are following the policy of the Associated Chambers. Cochin Chamber is working on quiet diplomacy. Unlike the other trade organizations, chambers and all that, like FICCI and all that, they used to be very articulative, very powerful, very communicative on press conferences, anything what they want to do. But it was their voices used to be not much heard during the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Associated Chambers, backed by the 4 major associates of Associated Chamber, like the Cochin Chamber, Madras Chamber, Bengal Chamber, and the Bombay Chamber, we used to engage in quiet diplomacy, work with the government at all the levels, and whatever ASSOCHAM and the unit chambers wanted the government to do, most of us we were able to get done, because that is the way how this chamber used to be working in an absolutely professional manner. And that tradition continues now. We have a whole galaxy of very senior past presidents who have given their very best and brought this chamber to these glorious levels of existence as of now. I would request, as the senior past president, to request all the past presidents to stand up and be recognized, please. They are all the great men who led the... Thank you all. Thank you very much. We see a remarkable change in the role of the Chambers of Commerce and Trade Associations today. The nation has been progressing in leaps and bounds. India is not certainly what it was. Not 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, totally changed. Do you see that? As was mentioned, of course, we will very soon be the 3rd largest economy in the world, but apart from that, we are one of the most powerful nations in the world. Our voice is very much heard. We are deciding the destiny of the economic structure, not just economic, political, social, educational, cultural aspects of the whole world itself. We have come to stay like that. But we still have a lot of issues to be sorted out. We are a nation of 146 billion people. The only nation who could be compared with us is China, which has equal number of population. 50 years ago, China was nowhere near us in terms of economic growth, in terms of per capita income, or in terms of GDP and all that. They were just marginally close to us or behind us in many respects. But as Chief Guest has said, where have they reached? There is no comparison now between China and India. We have reached a stage we can never be there. They are the second largest economy and they are rubbing their shoulders with the United States. US is a $23 trillion economy. China is a $14 trillion economy, almost 60% of US. And we are struggling to touch the 4 trillion mark. Only less than probably 1/3 of China. And in terms of many of its economic indices, only 1/5 of China. How such a gap could have happened? It is largely because of the commitment of the people, the policies of the government, and how various organizations work together, how the labor and everyone contributed to the nation's growth and continuing to be contributing to that. Unfortunately, this nation has been slipping behind. No more. We cannot stop at that. You saw the latest budget, last 2-3 days, 1 week you saw a fantastic economic survey being brought out, very promising survey. India is growing on all fronts. You must have seen that 7.3% at the GDP level, exports level has gone up, touched up the highest. The current deficit has come down very acceptable level. The foreign exchange reserve has crossed the $700 billion. And the semiconductor production, AI and all that, we are leading the world now. Agricultural production also is almost tripled over the last 3 or 4 years. 50 years ago, we had hardly 80 million tons of wood grains. When we needed 130 million tons of wood grains, we were importing 50 million tons of wood grains. We were a starving nation. But today we have 338 million tons of food grains. We need only 280. We are a surplus nation in terms of food grains export. So the export front is also increasing and expanding very much. So growth potential is tremendous. We have to make use of that. The greatest challenge now is that India needs professionals. India needs management. India needs leadership, and we are lacking in that. The political space is not at all very acceptable, very comfortable. Very hardly we see people like Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan or K.T. Ramarao in Telangana or Mr. Nilesh Naidu in Hyderabad and all that. Very few people who are knowledgeable enough to lead the country, competent enough to lead the country. Fortunately, at the Government of India level, we have a few leaders. We have seen that people like Piyush Goyal and Sita Raman and Vaishnav and several of them very competent people. They are not purely political personalities like Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan. Therefore, the country is in very safe hands. But nevertheless, the challenge is for associations like us, chambers, for us to stand by the government. We have been already doing that. The role has to shift now perhaps by being merely advocacy groups or merely supporting the governments with policy measures, with the suggestions and advice and all that. We may have to move forward a little more to involve even in the structuring of the various policies, in the implementations of the various schemes, in ensuring that the laws and various rules and regulations enacted are properly implemented, in ensuring that the very scarce natural resources are not wasted, and bringing in productivity and efficiency at all the levels. Who can do that? Governments cannot just do that. Therefore, organizations like us, which has tremendous amount of competence and professional capability, we have to come forward and help the government hold the hand if necessary and take the nation forward. A time has come where India, the Government of India alone cannot do much. We have seen that. A few years ago when we used to go around lecturing on the budgets. Every time when the budgets used to be introduced, we used to wait with anxiety about what are the contents of the national budget. Because the union budget used to be so much responsible for defining the destiny of the ordinary people and businessmen, everyone. Today, not so much. Today, we more look at the state's budget than the central budget. The central government is almost becoming a facilitator, And the states have to, this prosperity of the people depends upon the state governments. Fortunately in India, most of the states are coming up beautifully well. Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Punjab, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Northeast, even Kerala. Even Kerala, the other day our industries minister said he went to Davos and he signed agreements for 14 lakhs crores of projects. Whether it will come or not, he has signed that. So, the states are getting organized and the states are responsible for practically every aspect of the welfare of the ordinary people. Education, health, agriculture, industry, information technology, communications, these are all state subjects. And we look up to the state governments to improve on that. If the state governments perform well, the nation will perform well. The entire gamut of the nation's achievement will depend upon the combined effort and contributions of the states plus the central government. Fortunately, the system is working fairly well. We have to improvise upon that. And organizations like us, we have a tremendous amount of roles to play. I'm sure Cochin Chamber of Commerce will be in the forefront to take up the initiative in several respects going forward and help the government of Kerala and the government of India and the people all around also to come up and achieve much greater welfare, success, prosperity in their life. Thank you very much. Once again, on behalf of all the past presidents and the chamber members of the Cochin Chamber as a whole, I would very heartily compliment, congratulate the present team under Vinodini Sukumar, doing extremely well, all the committee members and the committees to follow. Good luck and Godspeed now and ever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As a token of our appreciation and gratitude, may I now request former President V. Venugopal, sir, to present a memento to Venugopal C. Govind, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to honor those eminent leaders who have carried the mantle of Cochin Chamber of Commerce and Industry with integrity, foresight, and unwavering commitment. The past presidents of Chamber, who have played a defining role in shaping its legacy and strengthening its voice in the business and policy ecosystem. May I now request the Honorable Minister to kindly do the honors and felicitate our esteemed past president. We begin by honoring Venugopal C. Govind, sir, former president for the year 1974-75, who is already there on the stage. A huge round of applause. Next, I invite B.R. Nair, sir, former president for the year 2001-2. May I now invite Jose Dominic, sir, former president for the year 2006-8. May I now invite Anand Menon, sir, former president for the year 2009-11. We have Anand Menon, sir, former president for the year 2009-11. I now invite P. Narayanan, sir, May I now invite P. Narayanan, sir, former president for the year 2011-13. Next, I request C.P. Maman, sir, former president for the year 2013-14. Now I invite C.S. Karta, sir, past president for the year 2014-16. Next, I invite V. Venugopal, sir, past president for the year 2018-20. Next, I invite Venkatraman Anand, sir, past president for the year 2023-24. Finally, may I request SP Kamath sir, immediate past president for the term 24-25.
Everyone, it's been a long evening, but a very, very informative one. And obviously, it is because we had our chief guest, Dr. Palanivel Thiagarajan, with us this evening. As we were informally chatting in the evening when he just came in, I realized that the 169-year legacy of the chamber. We were chatting with the doyen of the tourism industry, our past president, Mr. Jose Dominic, and I suddenly realized that our minister was born in the year that Mr. Jose Dominic passed out from his alumnus, the Lawrence in Ooty, Lawrence School in Ooty. And parallelly, I was also happy to note that, we were together in the same town of Ooty, studying almost at the same time. So that draws some parallel with Tamil Nadu and Kerala because, and I was very happy in many, many senses because I do my business also in Tamil Nadu, apart from Kerala too. And the way Tamil Nadu is growing, we can always see it happening. Now, coming to the 169, this figure came to my head of 280. And the reason is very simple. 280 or probably 300. Because if we had another 10 people or 10 people in the 28 states of India, that is 28 into 10 would be 280, including Mr. Palanivel Thiagarajan or PTR as we affectionately call him. I think India would have had maybe 10x times of its growth that we are currently witnessing. Because there is this, this saying that, the best of the students go into civil services and the next rung goes into maybe they become other kind of bureaucrats or professionals, and the third rung of people get into politics and then they manage all the other three. But then I think this is the other way around in Mr. PTR's case, at least. It is the reverse. And I wish that, people like him, professionals like him, highly educated people like him were there. At least 10 ministers like him were there in every part of India, in every state of India, and then the fate of our country would have been or will become different. I think that is going to happen in the future. Thank you very much, sir, for having graced us today evening. He had to, as was said, he had to prepone, but then he still kept his word of coming to us and honoring us on this 169th anniversary of the chamber. So, despite all his programs, thank you very much once again, sir, for having been with us today evening. And Mr. Kashi Viswanathan, as we all know, he is very much part of the port, and he has been a well-wisher of the port, of our chamber. We thank you very much, sir, for all the insights that you have given. Especially, I was really motivated by the fact that, the kind of welfare schemes that the government of Tamil Nadu has introduced has made you what you are today. Thank you. I do not have to say about the gentleman sitting at the left extreme, the senior most vice president of the chamber, because his son Vivek, I think Vivek has just left, is a very good friend of mine, and I think VCG sir, the kind of the data that you have, he is the senior most president here, but then I don't think I can at my age remember the kind of data that he has at his fingertips. It's incredible. I'm coming to you, sir, for a few more classes. So that, and yeah, we thank you, past President SP Kamath, for introducing our chief guest of the day. Mr. John Burgess, you have thrown a lot of light into the banking industry, and we thank you also for sponsoring being the principal sponsor for this evening. And all our past presidents who have been here with us today evening for making this evening such a lively one. All our sponsors, let me thank all of you for, of course, the Dhanalakshmi Bank, the Cochin Shipyard, DP World, then GSC Shipping, and PSN. We thank you all for coming. I would especially like to thank all the other chamber presidents and all the people who are representing other trade bodies this evening to be with us today this evening. Thank you very much. I don't want to name all of you individually, but then I would like to thank all of you. I see a few of you sitting here, and thank you very much. And finally, the evening has been lively because of all of you members who have come here in large numbers. I think today, actually in Cochin City, we have more than 5, to my knowledge, it's about 5 programs, including this, of, this kind of programs on budget analysis and many other things. In fact, I went for one and then came here. So, despite all that, this hall is full because all of you know that you're going to take back value, especially from our chief guest. And thank you very much for having come here today evening. Finally, I would like to also thank our Chamber Secretariat for having put up this great evening today evening here, and the management of the hotel for having given us this venue at very short notice. Thank you. Let's all sit back. Let's all enjoy the evening together. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request you all to rise for national anthem.
Jai